there, Bulldog fans, and welcome into the Bulldog Blitz. I'm your host, Mark Minner. Ahead on this week's show, the undefeated men's soccer team was tested against Valpo. The football team suffered a tough loss in the Butler Bowl, and the women's soccer team was edged out on Sunday. But first, a 4-game road trip will commence this week for the Butler volleyball team when they head out to Ohio. The women have started 4-0 to open up their league season and have a 9-6 record overall. Saturday, the Bulldogs welcomed the UIC Flames into Hinkle Fieldhouse for Butler's only match of the weekend. UIC held Butler close all match long, but the Bulldogs were able to not drop a set and took it in 3. It was not a pretty day for either team in terms of attacking. Butler hit at just a 12% rate, but it was double that of what the Flames could produce, who attacked at 6%. Butler collected 10 team blocks, and 4 players recorded at least 8 digs. Every great team has to be able to find a way to win the close games, and that is exactly what happened this past Friday when the men's soccer team took on Valparaiso. The 14th-ranked Bulldogs, who had won 7 and not dropped a match this season, were in for a challenge from the Crusaders, who were 6-1-1 coming into the afternoon. Butler had the advantage in shots at 15-13, but both teams finished the match with 3 shots on goal. The game had not seen a goal in regulation or the first overtime period. However, with 2 minutes remaining in the second overtime, Connor Burt delivered the game winner. Burt had been outstanding defensively during the game, but it was his shot in the 108th minute that allowed the Bulldogs to remain undefeated. It was Connor's first goal of the season. Keeper Fabian Knopfler collected his 15th career shutout and had 3 saves in the second half. Butler will take on UIC in the next league match on Saturday in the Butler Bowl. The football team will be on the road this week in North Carolina where they will take on Davidson. It was a day to forget on Saturday as the Bulldogs snapped their 8-game winning streak at home. Butler was close at halftime with Campbell 13-10, but in the second, Campbell scored 14 uncontested points and was able to secure the 27-10 win. The Bulldogs had not lost to the Campbells in their previous 3 meetings and were outmatched in total yardage 336 to 247. Andrew Huck was the leading rusher with 69 yards on 13 carries, while the only touchdown scored for Butler was a 19-yard run from senior quarterback Matt Cobley. The game against Campbell was the first time since 2008 that the Bulldogs had back-to-back losses. Women's soccer was looking to move to 2-0 to start up league play when they hosted Valparaiso on Sunday afternoon. The only goal that would take place, though, came in the 38th minute for the Crusaders when Casey Peterson knocked in a penalty kick to give Valpo their only goal they would need. Butler had an 8-3 shot advantage in the second half, but it was not enough as the Bulldogs moved to a .500 record in league play with the 1-0 loss. Butler will take on Green Bay up north on Friday in their next match. Coming up next, we will sit down with Lance Rinker of the Butler Collegian to talk about this week in Butler sports. Stay with us on the Bulldog Blitz. Hey there, welcome back onto the Bulldog Blitz. Mark Minner joined by Lance Rinker, sports writer for the Butler Collegian. Lance, thanks for joining us.
Good to be back.
For the women's volleyball team, it is a good start to league play. There's no doubt about that. Beating UIC this past weekend, they looked very strong, would you say?
Yeah, they had a very good game against UIC. Came out really and won the first set convincingly, 25-20. Ran into some problems in the second set. They were actually reached a point where it was knotted at 25-all. But they got a big block, and then Susan Lester ended that set with a dig, or actually a kill, rather. And I think that deflated UIC a little bit, and we were able to cruise on to that third set victory, so they looked really good.
Undefeated in the league play, as I said, they struggled a little bit in non-conference, but they're playing very tough teams. What do you attribute the success right now in their league play?
Well, the past couple weeks since league play started, they've really improved their blocking up front, and the back row has also played really solid in terms of getting digs, so I think that's where they attribute a lot of their success to.
They go on a 4-game road trip now, so this is really where you get tested. Last year they struggled on the road, but what kind of stuff? I mean, this is where you really separate yourself.
And it's going to be a really tough road trip. First they go out to Ohio, play Youngstown State and Cleveland State, and then go to Wisconsin to play Green Bay and Milwaukee. And it should be noted that along Butler and Milwaukee are the only unbeaten teams left in the conference. And Milwaukee actually handed Cleveland State their only conference loss.
Yep.
So Cleveland State's going to be tough first, and then they go right into Milwaukee. 2 very tough games and a long road trip. So
the other Butler team that had a lot of success this weekend with men's soccer remained undefeated as well in league play, looking very strong. It was much tougher, though, this time against Valparaiso, going into double overtime, but eventually securing the victory.
Yeah, senior Connor Burt he put a header in the 108th minute, or just maybe into the 109th, deep into the second overtime. So, yeah, hard-fought game, and really you're seeing a lot of these teams come out and give us their best shot. We're undefeated, and it's well known. The opponents definitely know that and prepare for us and come out really strong every game.
It hasn't always been this season for the men's soccer team that they've been tested really late in the game, but in this particular instance they were, and that really shows the fortitude of the team, don't you think?
Yeah, every team's coming out to give us their best shot again, and it ties in. The first halves are always really tough, but luckily we're a well-fit team, and we can go deep into that second half and maybe wear down the opponent. And you're seeing more second half goals. I believe they actually are outscoring opponents 11-1 in the second half, so that's just absolutely huge for them.
UIC, when they've come to Butler, they've always given them a challenge here. This weekend, they will be here. The only game we got on campus this weekend. What do you see in that matchup?
UIC, it's interesting. They're actually 3-6, 1-2 in conference, but I noticed that of all their losses, all but one have come by just a single goal. So they're in every game, and I'm sure they're going to give us a run for their money.
Football. What's going on, Lance? There's a loss to Campbell this week. First time they've ever lost to Campbell in the 3 meetings they've had with them. Just not looking the same as they did last year.
No, going in, we knew Campbell would be a tough opponent, and we knew they liked to run the ball, and that's exactly what they did. They ran for 276 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So we had trouble stopping the run, and they just really set the pace of the game, controlled most of the possession, and our offense was forced to pass and out of our comfort zone a little bit and just could never really get in sync.
I'm sure the coaching staff and everybody's looking at this team and saying, what is going on differently this year? Obviously, there are some injuries up front on the offensive line that are really hurting, some personnel changes, but what do you think? What is it right now that's really separating this team from last year?
I think the injuries have something to do with it. The offensive line is banged up, so defenses are pressuring Huck, and he's never really comfortable in the pocket. But somehow they have to just find a way to get something going on offense. They haven't been in sync the past couple weeks, and it's shown. And stopping the run is also really crucial. We struggled with that versus Taylor and versus Campbell, so that's a big issue for us.
Next weekend they go on the road to Davidson, maybe get away, try and clear your head a little bit. Can they turn it around starting in North Carolina?
Yeah, Davidson's it's an interesting team. They actually start a freshman at quarterback. They're 1-3 on the season, so they're also struggling, but they're a team with a lot of fight. They actually played Campbell. They were trailing 27-14, and then in the fourth quarter put up 14 unanswered points to beat Campbell, who we just lost to. So it's not going to be an easy game, but they do start that freshman quarterback, so maybe we can get some pressure on him and come out with a win.
On Sunday, the women's soccer team, who was 1-0 in league play, suffered their first loss. Again, a very close match against Valparaiso. It was just one penalty kick in, I believe, the 38th minute. But women's soccer team just close, but not really getting able to get over the hump.
You mentioned that penalty kick, and really that was huge. To be down, it changes the whole mentality of your team and the whole aspect of the game. I mean, you're trailing and trying to catch up. We actually outshot Valparaiso 9-6 and had more on-target shots, but just couldn't get one through, and we're playing catch-up for most of the game.
You've covered this women's soccer team, and you've watched them. You've seen how they play, and what kind of things do they have to do to try and change around and try and become a dominant presence in the league?
Well, while the record may not show it, I think they are playing well. I think it's just a matter of consistency and getting over that hump. They're a very young team. They start 7 freshmen on average, so it's getting over those inexperienced issues, and they're going to go through those hiccups because they're such a young team. But they have a lot of promise, and I think they have potential to turn the season around and end on a good note.
All right, well, thank you for joining us this week, Lance.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that'll do it with our conversation with Lance Rinker. When we come back, lots more to talk about, including what you can see on campus this weekend. This weekend, most of the fall sports are on the road, but you will get one chance to watch your Butler Bulldogs in action. That can be seen on Saturday afternoon in the Butler Bowl when UIC comes to town at 4 p.m. to try to take down the Bulldogs, who are 3-0 in league play. Well, that will just about do it for this week's episode of the Bulldog Blitz. Make sure to catch us on Comcast On Demand or online at youtube.com/Bulldog Blitz Sports. Until then, I'm Mark Minner. We'll see you right back here on the Bulldog Blitz.